What if the most terrifying stories weren't found in books, but buried in police reports, voicemails, and the whispers of small towns? America is filled with forgotten corners, lonely highways, decaying homes, and forests that seem to watch you. Places that locals avoid. Places with stories. And tonight you'll hear 15 of them. Terrifying true accounts that were never meant to be shared, but refused to stay silent. A shadow that moved against the wind. A call from a number that no longer exists. A noise upstairs when no one else is home. These stories aren't fiction, they happened. And once you hear them, they become part of you. So take a deep breath, look behind you just in case, and press play. Because tonight, the darkness doesn't wait, it listens. The night was supposed to be sacred, a celebration of life and family under the glow of Easter Sunday. But as we walked through that park, something watched us from the shadows, its eyes glinting like a predator's. By the time we reached the bridge, I felt it. A presence that wasn't human, wasn't alive, yet it moved. And when it stepped into the moonlight, dressed as the Easter bunny with an axe in its hand, I knew we'd never leave that place the same. Feel the chill in your bones as you imagine this. A park you've walked through 100 times, now cloaked. In darkness, every rustle a whisper of something sinister. That's where my story begins, in a memory I can't escape. 3 years ago, my younger brother Caleb and I set out for our parents' house, a tradition we'd kept since we moved into our apartment 15 minutes away. The park between us was vast, its trails weaving through ancient oaks and past a narrow bridge that always felt off. But it was Easter, a time for warmth, not fear. Or so we thought. As we entered the park, the air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of violet and gold. Close your eyes and picture it. The world feels alive, but there's a hum, a vibration you can't place. Caleb was joking about Mom's overcooked ham, his laughter echoing softly. A few joggers passed us, their footsteps fading into the distance. But as we neared the bridge, the park grew silent, too silent, as if the world held its breath. That's when we heard it. A faint rustling in the bushes, like fingers brushing through leaves. We froze, scanning the shadows. Probably just a squirrel, Caleb muttered, but his voice wavered. I nodded, though my heart thudded against my ribs. Feel that moment, when instinct screams something's wrong, but your mind begs you to ignore. We pressed on, the bridge looming ahead, its concrete arch swallowing the last light. The rustling followed, sporadic, teasing as if whatever it was wanted us to know it was there. Under the bridge, the air turned cold, the walls amplifying every sound. Our footsteps echoed like gunshots. Then, a whistle pierced the silence. Not a bird, not the wind, but a deliberate human sound, sharp and mocking. It came from behind us, close, too close. Imagine it, a tune that doesn't belong, slicing through the dark, pulling you into a trance of fear. Caleb grabbed my arm, his eyes wide. "Let's move," I whispered. And we quickened our pace, the whistle fading but never leaving our minds. By the time we reached our parents' house, we were breathless, laughing nervously at our paranoia. But wasn't it real? That feeling of being hunted, of eyes boring into your back? Dinner was a blur of warm lights, clinking glasses, and Mom's endless stories. Caleb and I avoided mentioning the park, burying the unease beneath plates of mashed potatoes and family chatter. Hours later, as night deepened, we faced the inevitable, the walk back. I suggested an Uber, my gut still twisting from earlier. But Caleb scoffed. "You're being dramatic, it's just a park." His confidence was infectious, and against my better judgment, I agreed. Let yourself believe it's safe, just for a moment, before the truth crashes in. The park at midnight was a different beast. Without streetlights, it was a void. The trees mere silhouettes against a starless sky. We used our phone flashlights, their beams cutting narrow paths through the dark. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of pine and something metallic. Like rust or blood, breathe it in, that primal scent that warns you to run. Every step felt like a violation, as if we were trespassing in a place no longer ours. The rustling returned, louder now, deliberate, circling us. Caleb's bravado faded. His flashlight trembled. Then, the whistle again, sharp and taunting, closer than before. Hear it now, looping in your mind, pulling you deeper into the nightmare. We were halfway to the bridge when the world seemed to tilt. The rustling stopped, replaced by heavy, uneven footsteps. My pulse roared in my ears. "Caleb, run!" I hissed, but he was already moving, his light bouncing wildly. We reached the bridge, its mouth a gaping wound in the earth. Inside, the darkness was absolute, our lights barely piercing it. We ran, the tunnel amplifying our gasps, our shoes slapping against concrete. Emerging on the other side, we thought we'd escaped, until the whistle sounded again, right behind us. Feel the moment freeze, your body locked in place as dread becomes reality. We turned as one, and there it was. A figure stood at the tunnel's exit, bathed in moonlight. It wore an Easter bunny costume, its white fur stained and matted, the oversized head tilted at an unnatural angle. In its paw, an axe gleamed, its edge catching the light. See it clearly. The symbol of childhood joy twisted into a monster. Its presence a violation of everything sacred. My legs refused to move, my mind screaming that this couldn't be real. Caleb's voice broke the spell. "What the hell is that?" he stammered. The figure didn't answer. It just stared, its eyes human. "He's burning through the costume sockets. Is this some mall stunt?" I choked out, clinging to logic. Caleb's laugh was hollow. "Yeah, because kids love bunnies with axes." The figure took a step forward, the axe scraping the ground. Feel the sound vibrate through you, a command to flee. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Caleb's arm. We bolted, but Caleb stumbled, his ankle twisting. He hit the ground hard, crying out. The figure was sprinting now, impossibly fast, the axe raised. Picture it, a nightmare closing in, each step a heartbeat stolen. "Caleb, get up!" I screamed, hauling him to his feet. He limped, pain etched on his face. The figure was almost on us, its breath rasping through the costume. I shoved Caleb forward, but he was too slow. The axe swung and Caleb's scream tore through the night. Blood sprayed, hot and coppery as he collapsed. Feel the world shatter, the moment when hope dies. I wanted to stay, to fight, but terror overrode everything. I ran, the bunnyman's laughter, a low, guttural sound chasing me. I didn't stop until I reached the park's edge, collapsing as I dialed 911. The police arrived swiftly, their flashlights cutting through the fog. They escorted me back to the bridge, but what I saw haunts me still. Caleb's body was unrecognizable, hacked apart, pieces scattered like a grotesque puzzle. Blood pooled on the pavement, reflecting the moonlight. The bunny man was gone, vanished into the night. See it in your mind. A crime scene that feels like a dream, yet the pain is all too real. The case remains unsolved, labeled an urban legend by faceless voices online. But I hear Caleb's screams every night, feel his absence like a wound that never heals. And now, listen closely because the story isn't over. The bunny man is more than a killer. He's a shadow that lingers. They say he haunts that bridge, a spirit born of madness, a patient who escaped an asylum decades ago. Whisper his name 3 times. Bunny man, bunny man, bunny man. And he'll find you. His axe still drips with the blood of those who dare cross his path. Some claim he lives in the woods wearing rabbit skins, leaving their bones in the trees. Others say he's a ghost, summoned by the bridge's darkness. Feel the weight of his gaze even now, as you hear these words. Every Easter, I return to that park standing at the bridge's edge hoping for answers. The wind carries a faint whistle, and I wonder if he's watching, waiting. Will you ever walk through a park at night again, knowing he might be there? This isn't just a story. It's a warning. The bunny man is real, and he's still out there. The mall exhaled a sour breath that evening, its air thick with something rancid, like a secret rotting in the walls. I stepped into Foot Locker, chasing the clean promise of new sneakers, but my skin prickled as if the store itself was watching. Me? A simple errand. Buy a pair of kicks, go home. But some doors, once crossed, lead you into shadows you can't escape. The store pulsed with chaos, sneakers stacked like trophies, fluorescent lights searing my eyes, customers darting through, aisles like startled fish. The stench of rubber and synthetic leather stung my nostrils. A scent that once felt like freedom, but now coiled in my chest like a warning. I'd been saving for weeks to replace my frayed Nikes, their soles worn thin from endless city streets. Foot Locker was the nearest haven, a quick stop on a Tuesday evening. How could I have known that haven was a lie? I drifted to the men's section, my fingers grazing rows of sleek designs, Air Max, Jordans, each pair whispering confidence. The crowd's chatter dulled as I moved deeper, the store's energy shifting, growing heavier. That's when I felt it, a stare, cold and unyielding, slicing through the air. I turned, and there he stood, 3 aisles away, a lanky figure in a red Foot Locker polo. His eyes, sunken into hollow sockets, pinned me in place. His lips curled into a smile, thin and wrong, like a wound stitched shut. My pulse quickened, a drumbeat in my throat. Have you ever felt a stranger unravel you with a glance? His name tag read Silas. He was a jagged silhouette, cheekbones sharp as blades, fingers twitching like they craved something to grasp. I told myself he was just an employee, maybe, too eager to make a sale. But his stare lingered, predatory, stripping away my calm. I turned back to the sneakers, my hands unsteady as I lifted a pair of Jordans. Breathe. Pick a pair and leave. I'd been here before, years ago, a memory flickering like a half-forgotten dream. I was a kid, barely 13, tagging along with my older brother to buy his first pair of high tops. The store was alive then, employees joking, customers laughing, the air bright with possibility. I'd slipped my small feet into a pair of oversized Nikes, grinning at the mirror, dreaming of the day I'd own something that bold. That Foot Locker felt safe, a place where dreams were laced into souls. Why did this one feel like a trap? Silas's presence slithered closer. I glanced up and he was there, inches away, silent as a specter. His breath rasped, sour and warm, like spoiled milk left in the sun. Need help? He asked, his voice a low rasp, each word crawling under my skin. I flinched, the shoe slipping from my grip. No, I'm fine, I said, my voice thinner than I wanted. He didn't budge. His eyes dropped to my feet and his smile stretched, baring yellowed teeth. Beautiful feet, he said, lingering on the words. They'd shine without socks. Ever thought of modeling? Nike would love you. Or a private collection. Stomach twisted, a knot of ice. What did he mean, a private collection? I forced a laugh, mumbled a thanks and stepped back, my heart slamming against my ribs. He hovered, his gaze a weight I couldn't shake before drifting to a shadowed corner. I watched his lanky frame melt into the racks, but his eyes never left me. Every nerve screamed to run, but I'd come for those sneakers. I couldn't leave empty-handed. Why didn't I trust that scream? I scanned the shelves, desperate for normalcy, and found a pair of black and red Nikes, bold, perfect, a shield against the unease. The store felt hollow now. Other employees swamped by customers, their voices a distant buzz. I searched for anyone else to help, but Silas's gaze found me again, glinting like a blade across the room. My skin crawled, but I had no choice. I approached him, clutching the display shoe. "Can you check for a size 10? I asked, my voice tight as a wire. He stared, unblinking, his eyes boring into mine for an agonizing beat. Then, with a slow nod, he took the shoe and vanished into the back room. "Wait it out. He'll bring the shoes, and you're gone." But seconds stretched into minutes, 5, 10, 12. The store's hum faded, replaced by a suffocating quiet. The fluorescent lights buzzed like a swarm of flies, their glare burning my eyes. My mind spiraled. What's he doing back there? Is he watching? Silas finally emerged, a shoebox in his hands. His face glistened with sweat, his eyes feverish, darting like a cornered animal's. "Here you go," he said, his voice thick with something vile. He handed me the box, his fingers brushing mine, clammy, cold, like they'd been dipped in decay. I muttered a thanks and hurried to the counter, but he trailed me, a shadow I couldn't outrun. The other employees were still busy, leaving Silas to ring me up. "Pay and go. Don't look at him." "You're my favorite today," he said, scanning the box, his voice a blade wrapped in velvet. My hands shook as I swiped my card, the machine's beep piercing the silence. The receipt crawled out, its whine like a dying animal. I grabbed the box and bolted, the glass doors reflecting my wide-eyed fear. I was out. I was safe. Or so I thought. The mall's air hit me like a fist, but it couldn't loosen the dread strangling my chest. I gripped the shoebox, my knuckles white, and rushed to my car. The box felt wrong. Too heavy, too cold. I chalked it up to Silas's words, still slithering through my mind. Beautiful feet, private collection. I shook my head, clinging to the parking lot's normalcy. The growl of engines, the faint hum of shoppers. In my car, I craved something clean. I wanted to try on the Nikes, to wash away Silas's stain with their newness. I kicked off my old shoes and slid my feet into the sneakers. They hugged my feet perfectly, until they didn't. My socks clung, wet and sticky, like I'd waded through a sewer. A smell hit me, sharp, chemical, like piss mixed with rot. My stomach heaved. What is this? I tore off the sneakers, my hands trembling. In the car's dim light, I saw it. The insoles glistened with a white, syrupy liquid, thick and foul like curdled cream. The stench choked me, burning my throat. My socks were soaked, the substance seeping into my skin. I gagged, bile flooding my mouth. This wasn't a mistake. Silas's face flashed in my mind, his sweat, his eyes, his time in the back room. He did this. He wanted this. I ripped off my socks, my fingers slipping on the slimy fabric. The truth crashed over me. This was no accident. It was deliberate, personal, a violation that turned my skin to ash. I fumbled for my phone, dialing 911, my eyes locked on the sneakers, now monstrous in the moonlight. How could something so simple become so profane? Police swarmed the parking lot, their flashlights slicing the dark. I stammered through the story, Silas's stares, his words, the liquid. They sealed the sneakers, box and socks in plastic bags. their faces grim. An officer returned from Foot Locker with news. Silas was in custody. They'd caught him leering at another customer, his eyes as hungry as they'd been with me. But his arrest didn't cleanse the filth he'd left on me. Days later, the truth unraveled. Silas had done this before, tainting shoes with bodily fluids, passing them to customers like twisted gifts. A news report cited a case in Brampton, Ontario, where a Foot Locker manager bragged online about similar acts, his videos showing him defiling sneakers in the stockroom. The thought clawed at me. How many others had walked away unaware of the poison on their skin? How many had felt safe, only to carry his sickness home? I burned my old shoes, my socks, anything those Nikes touched. But the memory festers like old. Every Foot Locker I pass sends my heart racing. Silas's face blooming in my mind, his smile, his eyes, his hands offering that box. I wanted sneakers, but I got a scar. Stores feel like traps now, their employees' hands suspect. The world is grimy, and no soap scrubs it clean. Picture yourself slipping into something new, something perfect. Now imagine it's laced with someone's sickness. That's what Silas gave me. And somewhere, in some store, another pair waits for its next victim. The night was a lie, a cruel jest carved in blood. I stood in her living room, the air thick with betrayal, my hands trembling as the knife gleamed under the dim light. How did it come to this? Just hours ago, I was dreaming of a future with my girlfriend, my heart pounding with hope. Now, her screams echo in my skull, and I can't tell if this is real or the sickest April Fool's prank ever played. The spring of 2023 was a fever dream. I was 27, still tethered to my parents, house in a quiet Hanoi suburb, but my heart belonged to my girlfriend. We'd been together for 18 months, our love a fragile bridge between our chaotic lives. She was a firecracker, bold, witty, with eyes that could unravel me in seconds. I was obsessed, not just with her, but with the idea of us building a life together. Marriage wasn't just a whim, it was my anchor, the one thing that could pull us out of our parents' shadows. By March, I couldn't wait any longer. I bought a ring, a simple silver band that burned a hole in my pocket, and planned to propose on April 1st. Why that day? I thought it'd be poetic, a playful nod to our shared love for surprises. I didn't know it would become a nightmare. That evening, the sky over Hanoi was heavy with clouds, the air damp with the threat of rain. My girlfriend's parents were out, leaving their small, cluttered house to us. The living room smelled of jasmine incense, and the old wooden floor creaked under my nervous steps. She greeted me with a teasing smile, her hair loose, catching the glow of a single lamp. We didn't waste time. Within minutes, we were tangled on the couch, her laughter warm against my skin. It was perfect, too perfect, like the calm before a storm you don't see coming. Close your eyes and feel this moment, I told myself, anchoring the memory of her touch. But my heart was racing for another reason. The ring was in my jacket, and every second I delayed felt like a step toward a cliff. Afterward, we lay there, her head on my chest, the silence heavy with unspoken words. I could feel her noticing my tension. She giggled, thinking it was about her. Just say it. Don't let fear steal this. My throat tightened, but I pushed through. I need to ask you something. My voice cracked, betraying me. She sat up, her eyes curious but soft. What's wrong? You're acting weird. I fumbled, my hands sweating. Okay, here goes. Will you marry me? The words hung in the air, fragile as glass. I waited for her smile, her yes, the future I'd built in my head. But her face changed. The warmth drained, replaced by something cold, distant. No, I can't. No. The word hit like a punch, knocking the air from my lungs. What do you mean, no? This is a joke, right? It's April Fool's. My laugh was desperate, clinging to the hope she was playing with me, but her eyes were steady, unyielding. It's not a joke. I'm not ready. It's too soon. Too soon? We'd shared everything, nights, secrets, dreams. How could she say that? I stood pacing, my voice rising. You're lying. Just admit it's a prank. You love me. She shook her head, her voice firm. I'm not lying. I mean it. The room spun, the walls closing in. This isn't happening. She's testing you. Make her see. I grabbed her shoulders, my fingers digging in. Say you're joking. Say it. Her eyes widened, fear flickering. Stop. You're scaring me. But I couldn't stop. The rejection was a blade, slicing through every hope I'd pinned on her. I remembered a night months ago, when we'd lain under the stars by Juan Kiem Lake. She'd told me about her fear of being trapped, of losing herself in someone else's dreams. Was that a warning I ignored? The memory looped in my mind, a trance pulling me deeper into rage. You can't do this to me. I gave you everything. My voice was a stranger's, raw and unhinged. She pushed me away, shouting, "Get out! You are out of control." Her words were gasoline on my fire. She doesn't love you, she never did. The thought was a command, embedded in my soul. I stumbled into the kitchen, my vision blurring. The counter was a mess. Dishes, a cutting. Bored a knife. Its blade caught the light, whispering to me, "Take it. Make her pay." My hand closed around the handle, the metal cold against my palm. I wasn't thinking, not really. It was like I was watching myself, a puppet in a dream gone wrong. Back in the living room, my girlfriend was on her feet, her phone in hand. "I'm calling my parents if you don't leave. She's abandoning you." The knife trembled in my grip. "You don't get to walk away from me." My voice was low, a growl I didn't recognize. Her eyes locked on the blade and she froze. "Please." Her plea was a whisper, but it was too late. The world narrowed to her face, her fear, the knife. I lunged and the room exploded into chaos. Her scream pierced the air, sharp and endless. The blade moved again and again, as if it had a will of its own. Blood bloomed, warm and slick, coating my hands, my clothes, my soul. When it stopped, I was kneeling beside her, the knife still in my hand. She was gone, her eyes empty, staring past me. "What have you done?" The question was a scream in my head, but the silence was louder. The house felt alive, its shadows mocking me. I dropped the knife and ran, the floorboards groaning under my weight. Outside, the night was suffocating, the air thick with the scent of rain. I sprinted to my parents' house, my mind a kaleidoscope of her face, her blood, her scream. In the shower, I scrubbed until my skin was raw, but the water couldn't wash away the truth. "You're a monster." The police came by dawn. My girlfriend's parents must have found her, their daughter reduced to a memory on their living room floor. I didn't resist when they cuffed me. In my cell, the walls whisper her name, and every April Fool's Day, I dream of her. She's sitting on the couch, smiling, saying yes. Then the knife appears and I wake up screaming. This isn't a prank. It's my reality, a cage of guilt I'll never escape. Inspired by a real tragedy on March 30th, 2023, in Gyananga, India, Rahan Ahmed, a spare car driver, proposed to Farida Khatun, a mother of two after a year-long relationship. When she refused, believing it too soon, Ahmed's rage consumed him. He attacked her with a knife, leaving her lifeless in a pool of blood. A coconut seller found her, and Ahmed later surrendered. The brutality shocked the community, a grim reminder of how love can twist into horror. Imagine a mirror that doesn't lie, showing not just your face but the decay beneath your skin. Every night I stood before it, watching my body betray me, my flesh melting away like wax under a flame. But it wasn't the mirror that broke me. It was the syringe, the promise of perfection that turned me into something else, something that wasn't human anymore. Step into my world, where love turned to ashes and a single choice unraveled everything. 3 years ago, my husband David and I were a faded portrait of our younger selves. Both in our 50s, our bodies softened by time. We'd been married for decades, our lives woven together in a quiet suburb. But the threads were fraying. I was no longer the woman he'd married. My health had crumbled. My weight ballooned and exhaustion clung to me like a second skin. David, though, had clawed his way back to youth, his gym sessions carving out a six-pack that mocked my lethargy. Feel it now. The sting of comparison, the weight of being left behind. Our home, once a haven, became a battlefield. David's eyes no longer met mine. His hands avoided my touch. One night his frustration erupted. "You're dragging me down," he shouted, his voice sharp as a blade. "I'm trying to be better, but you don't care." His words cut deeper than I admitted, planting a seed of shame that grew with every glance in the mirror. See yourself. In that moment, judged by the one you love, your flaws laid bare. I knew he was right, but change felt impossible. My body was a prison, and I was too tired to escape. Without my knowledge, David booked a doctor's appointment, driving me there, like a child to a scolding. The humiliation burned, but I sat in the sterile office, the doctor's voice clinical as he delivered the verdict. Severe obesity, type 2 diabetes. He prescribed insulin and a strict diet, but then mentioned Ozempic, a drug that could melt the weight away. Hear the word echo in your mind. Ozempic, a siren's call promising salvation. I nodded, desperate for a lifeline, though a whisper of doubt lingered. David's eyes lit up, as if he saw the wife he'd lost. I wanted to believe it too. The first weeks were torture. David hovered like a warden, measuring portions, banning sugar. The diet was a cage, each meal a reminder of my failure. Taste the bitterness of lettuce, the hunger that gnaws at your soul. When David was away, I rebelled, ordering fast food in secret, hiding wrappers like a thief. The grease on my fingers felt like victory, but it was fleeting. David found the evidence, a crumpled burger bag in the trash, and his rage was cold, calculated. "If you cheat again," he said, "I'll cheat on you." I laughed it off, daring him to prove he wasn't bluffing. Feel the defiance the moment you tempt fate. I pushed him further, leaving takeout bags in plain sight. For weeks he said nothing, and I thought I'd won. Then one night, he didn't come home. When he returned at dawn, his shirt rumpled. He didn't deny it. "Her name's Lisa," he said, naming a hotel. "I'm done pretending." Feel the ground crumble beneath you, the betrayal that steals your breath. He wasn't finished. "I'm going to Thailand for a month. If you don't change by the time I'm back, we're done." His words were a death sentence, leaving me alone with my fear of abandonment. I'd be nothing without him, a discarded relic in a world that worshipped youth. Panic drove me back to the doctor. I begged for help, and he handed me an Ozempic. Earrings, warning of side effects but promising transformation. Hold it in your hand, the needle glinting, a pact with the unknown. That night, I sat on my bed, the syringe cold against my skin. The house was silent, the mirror reflecting a stranger's face, puffy, tired, desperate. I injected the first dose, pain blooming in my thigh. Feel the sting. The moment you cross a line you can't uncross. At first, nothing happened. Then, a wave of nausea hit, my stomach churning as if something inside was waking up. Days turned to weeks, and the changes came. My clothes hung loose, my face sharpened. David's absence was a void, but Ozempic was my anchor. See your reflection shift, a stranger emerging, but at what cost? Yet something was wrong. My skin grew sallow, my eyes hollow, as if the drug was eating me from within. Nausea became my constant companion, each dose a battle. I heard whispers in the night. Not voices, but a hum, like a machine grinding inside me. Listen closely. Is it your pulse, or something else? Something alive? By the time David returned, I was a shadow of myself. He walked through the door, his tan glowing from Thailand's sun, and froze. "What happened to you?" he stammered, his voice laced with horror. I stood in the kitchen, my body skeletal, my skin clinging to bones like wet paper. See it in his eyes. Not love, not pity, but fear. "You wanted this," I rasped, my voice unfamiliar, sharp. "You did this to me." He backed away, hands raised. "I didn't mean. You need a hospital." But his words were hollow, a lie to mask his guilt. Feel the rage, the hunger for justice rising like a tide. I stepped closer, my movements jerky, unnatural. "Nothing's ever good enough, is it?" I hissed. "Not your wife, not your life." David's face paled, his bravado gone. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Let me help you." But it was too late. The hum inside me was deafening now, a chorus urging me forward. "Let it consume you, the need to make him pay." I lunged, my hands clawing at him, strength I didn't know I had. He screamed, but the sound was distant, drowned by the hunger within me. "You'll need a hospital when I'm done," I growled. And for a moment I wasn't me anymore. And now step back, because the truth is worse. This wasn't just my story. It's a warning etched in countless lives. Ozempic, hailed as a miracle, hides a darker side. Touch the syringe, feel its promise, and know its curse. A woman like me spoke of feeling her life slip away after taking it, her body ravaged by nausea, pancreatitis, and pain. She'd been diabetic like me, prescribed the drug to tame her blood sugar. It worked, until it didn't. See her now, curled on the floor, vomiting, believing she's dying. She survived, switching to another drug, but the scars remain. Will you trust the next pill knowing it might consume you? I don't know what became of David, or if I'm still the woman I was. Every mirror shows a stranger, every night a reminder of what I lost. Look into your own reflection and ask, what would you sacrifice to be perfect? Ozempic didn't just take my body, it took my soul, and it's still out there, waiting for its next victim. The scent of roasted ham and warm bread filled our home that Easter Sunday, a promise of laughter and family woven into every corner. Our dining room glowed with candlelight, children's giggles echoing like a hymn. But beneath the warmth, something festered, a shadow that had been growing for years, waiting to devour us all. I thought I knew my family. I thought I knew my brother. I was wrong. Our house stood as the heart of every family gathering, its sprawling rooms filled with memories of Thanksgivings, birthdays, and Easters past. My wife, Clara, and I raised 3 boys, Jacob, Noah, and little Eli, surrounded by cousins, aunts, and uncles who flocked to our home for every holiday. The oak table groaned under platters of food, the air thick with the tang of cranberry sauce and the sweet burn of cinnamon. Easter was our crown jewel, a day of painted eggs, hunts in the backyard, and prayers that bound us tighter. But no prayer could have saved us from what came that night. One figure didn't belong in this tapestry, my brother Amos. He was a ghost in our home, a man broken by life's relentless grind. Growing up, Amos was always the odd one. Quiet, his eyes darting like a trapped animal's, his laughter rare and sharp. He dropped out of school, drifted from job to job, each failure carving deeper lines into his face. 5 years ago, his world collapsed. Debt, no car, no home. I couldn't let him rot on the streets, so I opened our doors. Why did I think I could contain the darkness he carried? Amos lived in our guest room, a cave of locked doors and flickering TV light. He emerged only for food or water, his footsteps heavy, his presence a weight that pressed against the house. Clara hated him. His silence, his stares, the way he'd linger near the boys, muttering to himself. Jacob, our eldest, once woke screaming, claiming Amos had stood over his bed, watching. I dismissed it as a child's fear, but Clara's eyes burned with truth. "He's not right, Daniel," she'd whisper. "He's poisoning this house." Even our relatives begged me to cast him out, their voices a chorus of warnings. But he was my brother. I owed him a chance. How many chances? Does a monster need? I remembered Amos as a boy before the world broke him. We'd race through the fields behind our childhood home, the summer sun gilding his hair, his laughter free for once. I'd believed that boy was still inside him, buried under years of failure. I clung to that memory, convincing myself he could change. But some things don't change. They fester. That Easter Sunday, our home brimmed with nearly 20 guests. The morning sparkled. Children hunted eggs in the garden, their baskets overflowing with pastel treasures. Clara and her sister Miriam bustled in the kitchen, the clatter of pots blending with the hum of conversation. I led a prayer in the living room. The family gathered around a movie, our voices soft with gratitude. For hours, Amos stayed hidden, his absence a fragile relief. I should have known silence was his weapon. As dusk settled, the house grew warmer, the air heavy with the scent of dinner. Clara and Miriam were setting the table when a thud echoed from upstairs, sharp and deliberate. Like a door flung open, my heart stuttered. Amos's footsteps followed, slow and heavy, descending the stairs. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, his frame gaunt, his eyes hollowed by shadows. "Water," he rasped, his voice a dry scrape. I poured him a glass, my hands unsteady, but he didn't drink. Instead, he leaned toward Eli, our youngest, whispering words I couldn't hear. Eli's face paled, his small body shrinking back. Clara's voice cut through the tension. "Daniel, stop him." I stepped between them, forcing a smile. "Amos, why don't you head upstairs? We'll bring you a plate." His eyes locked onto mine, black and unreadable, a void that swallowed the light. He didn't speak, didn't blink. Then, with a slow turn, he marched upstairs, his steps echoing like a death knell. I thought I'd diffused him. I thought I was in control. 2 hours later, the table was set. The family gathered, their laughter a fragile shield against the unease. I stood to say grace, my voice trembling. "Let's give thanks for this day, for our..." The words died as Amos reappeared, his silhouette filling the doorway. His hands hung at his sides, but something gleamed in his grip, a flash of metal, cold and final. Clara's scream shattered the air. "Amos, what are you doing?" Time slowed, the world tilting into a nightmare. I saw their faces. Clara's, eyes wide with terror, Jacob's mouth open in a silent cry. Eli clutching Noah's hand. Then Amos moved, swift and merciless, and the room erupted in chaos. I walked among them afterward, their blood pooling like spilled wine, their eyes frozen. In betrayal, I smelled their final breaths, felt death's cold kiss on my skin. I was Amos. The truth clawed its way out as I stood in the wreckage. I'd carried their love, their trust, and turned it to ash. Not because I hated them, but because I was nothing, a shadow doomed to fade. They were no different, their lives small, forgettable. But I made us eternal. Killing them wasn't joy. It was necessity, like turning off a light to stop its flicker. I stepped onto the porch, the night air sharp against my skin. I dialed emergency services, my voice steady. I'm at 635 Minor Avenue. My family. I did something terrible. The operator's questions blurred as I waited, breathing the last free air I'd ever taste. Sirens wailed, growing closer, their red lights painting the house in blood. I didn't run. Monsters don't hide. The police found me there, my hands stained, my heart hollow. They locked me away, but the cell can't hold the weight of what I see each night. Their faces, their screams, the life I stole. A news report later tied my act to a man named James Rupert, who slaughtered 11 of his family in Ohio on Easter Sunday, driven by frustration and eviction threats. Like him, I was a fuse waiting to burn. How many others carry that same spark waiting to ignite? Close your eyes. Picture your family around a table, their smiles warm, their voices bright. Now imagine one of them rising, their eyes empty, their hands ready to end it all. That was me. And somewhere, another table waits for its traitor. The phone wouldn't stop ringing, its blue glow slicing through the dark like a warning I ignored. It was 4 a.m., and Kyle's name flashed on the screen, relentless, mocking. I thought it was another of his stupid April Fool's pranks, the kind that made me want to strangle him. But when I finally answered, his face filled the screen, red, sweating, a rope tight around his neck. His eyes begged for help, and I laughed. I laughed because I thought it was a joke. Now I'll never laugh again. It was spring 2023, and I, Jake, was grinding through my second year of engineering at a state college in Ohio. Life was a blur, of lectures, late-night study sessions, and a cramped apartment I shared with two roommates, Matt and Sarah. Kyle was my classmate, a lanky guy with a crooked grin who treated college like a game he could skip. He was in most of my classes, but he rarely showed up, always texting me excuses or begging for my notes. I tried to keep him on track. Tuition wasn't cheap and engineering wasn't forgiving. But Kyle was a lost cause. He'd rather pull pranks than pass exams. Why do I even bother? I'd mutter. But I kept helping him, maybe because he reminded me of a younger, dumber version of myself. Kyle's pranks were legendary, and not in a good way. Last semester, he'd faked a panic attack during a group project, clutching his chest and gasping until we all freaked out, only to jump up laughing. "Got you, Jake," he'd crowed, while I stood there, heart pounding, furious but relieved. That memory stuck with me, a warning I didn't heed. By April, Kyle was flunking hard and I was done babysitting. On March 31st, he didn't show up to our circuits lecture. I texted him, even recorded the class on my phone to share later. But he ghosted me. Typical Kyle, I thought, shoving my phone away. Studied, played some cards with Matt, and crashed around midnight ready for another grueling day. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed, rattling the nightstand like a trapped insect. Kyle's FaceTime call lit up the screen. I groaned, too exhausted to deal with his nonsense. "Go to sleep, idiot." I silenced it and rolled over, but the buzzing started again, louder, insistent. My room was a cave. Blackout curtains, a faint hum from the AC, the stale smell of yesterday's pizza. The phone's glow felt wrong, invasive. I hung up 3 more times, each vibration scraping my nerves. "Kyle, you're dead to me." By the 4th call, I was ready to block him, but he stopped. Relieved, I drifted back to sleep, the darkness swallowing me. 2 hours later, at 4 a.m., the buzzing returned, a relentless pulse that yanked me awake. My phone showed 10 missed calls from Kyle. What the hell? My thumb hovered over the decline button, but something, Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity made me answer. Look at his face, Jake, and tell him to screw off. The screen flickered and there was Kyle, his face a nightmare. His skin was flushed, slick with sweat, his eyes wide and bloodshot. A thick rope looped around his neck, the knot tight against his throat. He was in a dark room, barely lit, his breath shallow. Jake, please. His voice was a rasp, barely human. My stomach dropped. This isn't real. It's Kyle. He's messing with you. Kyle, what the hell is this? Where are you? I sat, my voice sharp, waking Matt in the next room. Kyle's eyes darted like he was looking at someone off screen. I don't know. They took me. Said they'll kick the stool if I try to escape. His words were frantic, slurred. I squinted at the screen, searching for a clue. A smirk, a prop, anything to prove it was fake. Please, Jake, find me, I'm begging you. His voice cracked and the rope twitched as he moved. He's faking it, it's April Fool's. My anger flared, drowning my fear. Kyle, you sick bastard, this isn't funny. Screw you, I shouted, my voice echoing. In the quiet apartment. His face crumpled, tears mixing with sweat, but I didn't care. April Fool's, right? You got me. I laughed, bitter, and hung up. The screen went black and I threw the phone down, my heart racing. Matt pounded on my door. Jake, what's going on? I ignored him, too pissed to explain. Kyle's gone too far this time. I couldn't sleep after that. The apartment felt smaller, the air thick with unease. I made coffee, the machine's hum grounding me as I replayed the call. Kyle's face, the rope, his voice. It felt too real, but it couldn't be. He's done this before, I reminded myself, thinking of that fake panic attack. By 7 a.m., I was dressed, ready to confront him at our 8 a.m. class. He'll be there, grinning like an idiot. But Kyle didn't show. My anger turned to dread, a cold weight in my chest. I checked my phone. No texts, no calls. Where is he? At noon, 2 cops showed up at my door, their faces grim. They pulled me to the dean's office and the world tilted. Kyle was dead. His roommates found him that morning. The stool he'd been standing on tipped over, the rope still around his neck. His phone was on the floor, my name the last call he made. The cops questioned me, their voices sharp. You saw him on FaceTime. Why didn't you call for help? I stammered, explaining the prank, how I thought it was a joke. They didn't care. The truth was, I'd hung up on him, and now he was gone. The days after were a haze. I saw Kyle's face everywhere. In my dreams, in the flicker of my phone screen. If you'd stayed on the call, Jake, you could have saved him. The guilt was a noose of its own, tightening every April Fool's Day. I stopped gaming, stopped laughing. Matt and Sarah tried to help, but they couldn't reach me. I was trapped in that 4 a.m. moment, staring at Kyle's face, knowing I'd failed him. Inspired by a real tragedy on April 1st, 2023, Abhishek Ragwanshi, a young man, died after a prank gone wrong during a video call. He'd tied a rope around his neck pretending to be in danger, but slipped, ending his life. His friend, thinking it was an April Fool's joke, didn't act in time. The incident, reported widely, became a haunting reminder of how a moment's misjudgment can turn laughter into loss. You think you're safe behind a counter, surrounded by bright lights and sneaker displays, but danger doesn't need an invitation. It walks through the door, eyes cold, hands hidden, waiting for the moment to strike. 2 years ago, I felt its breath on my neck, the cold steel of a blade that turned a quiet shift into a nightmare. And now every time a customer steps into the store, I feel it again. The phantom sting of that knife. Picture yourself in a place you know by heart, where every shelf and sound is familiar, yet something feels wrong. like a shadow moving just out of sight. That's where my story begins, in the fluorescent glow of a Foot Locker at the edge of a bustling mall. I'm Lucas, a night shift worker, clocking in for another closing shift 2 years ago. The job was simple: greet customers, restock shoes, keep an eye out for trouble. It paid decently, and most nights were slow. Just me and my coworker Mia, tidying up as the mall emptied. Feel the rhythm of routine, the false comfort of a predictable night. But routine blinds you, makes you forget that danger can wear a human face. That night started like any other. The store was quiet, the air thick, with the scent of new leather and rubber soles. Mia was at the register, humming softly, while I straightened racks in the back. The neon lights buzzed overhead, casting stark shadows on the polished floor. See it now, a store that feels alive, but its pulse hides something darker. Around 8 p.m., the glass doors slid open, and he walked in, a man in his 20s, lanky, with sunken eyes and a reek of stale smoke. His hoodie was too big, his hands buried in the pockets. Feel the air shift, a subtle warning you can't name. I watched him from the corner of my eye as he drifted through the aisles, his movements aimless yet deliberate, like a predator circling. He lingered by the LeBron 19s, muttering to himself, his voice too low to catch. "Need help?" I called, keeping my tone friendly. He shook his head, eyes flicking to me, then away. Hear your own voice, steady but uncertain, as instinct whispers to stay alert. He left soon after, buying nothing, but his presence lingered, a smudge on the night's calm. Mia noticed it too. "That guy gave me the creeps," she said, and I nodded, brushing it off. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he'd be back. He was. Every few nights he'd appear, always late, always alone. The same hoodie, the same sunken eyes, the same refusal to engage. He'd wander, touch shoes, then leave empty-handed. Imagine it, a pattern that feels wrong, a puzzle with missing pieces. I started watching him closer, noting how his eyes darted to the cameras, how his hands never left his pockets. Mia joked he was window shopping for trouble, but I wasn't laughing. Each visit tightened a knot in my gut, a premonition I couldn't explain. Feel that knot now, growing heavier with every step he takes. One night, with the mall nearly deserted, he came again. The store was silent, the hum of the lights louder than ever. Mia was in the stockroom, leaving me alone on the floor. He moved faster this time, his steps purposeful, heading for the clothing aisle. See him slip between the racks, a shadow among shadows. I followed at a distance, my heart thudding. He was rifling through shirts, his back to me. But something about his posture, tense, hurried, screamed wrong. Then I saw it, a shirt disappearing into his waistband. Feel the moment crystallize, the line between suspicion and certainty. "Hey, stop!" I shouted, my voice echoing in the empty store. He froze, then spun, his eyes wild. "You're stealing, I'm calling the cops." He bolted, but I was faster, grabbing his arm. Feel the adrenaline, the surge of purpose. He twisted, stronger. Then he looked, shoving me against a rack. Shirt spilled to the floor as we grappled, his breath hot and sour. "Help!" I yelled, hoping Mia would hear. She emerged, sprinting to call security, but the man was relentless, his fists slamming into my ribs. Hear your own gasps, the world narrowing to this struggle. We hit the ground, rolling across the floor, the store a blur of neon and chaos. I pinned him briefly, my knees on his chest, thinking I'd won. Believe for a moment you're in control. That safety is yours. Then, a flash of steel. He pulled a knife from nowhere, its blade glinting under the lights. Before I could react, it plunged into my neck, cold and sharp, a violation that stole my breath. Feel it now, the icy burn, the warmth of blood, the edge of oblivion. He shoved me off, sprinting for the door as I collapsed, my hands clutching the wound, blood slipping through my fingers. I lay there, the world fading, the buzz of the lights a distant hum. See the ceiling spin, the lights blurring into stars. I thought of Mia, of my family, of all the nights I'd taken for granted. But then voices, other store employees rushing in, tackling the man just outside. Their shouts pulled me back, anchoring me to life. Security arrived, cuffing him as he snarled, the knife pried from his grip. Feel the relief, fragile and fleeting, as death retreats. The ambulance ride was a haze, the paramedics' voices muffled. I survived, the blade missing major arteries by a miracle. But survival isn't healing. Touch your neck now. Imagine the scar that never fades. Every shift since, I flinch at new customers, their faces morphing into his in my mind. The knife is gone, but its ghost lingers, a cold weight in my throat. Will you ever feel safe in a store again, knowing what hides behind a stranger's eyes? Step into the real nightmare now. This wasn't just my story. It's a shadow cast by truth. In Winnipeg, a Foot Locker employee faced the same horror, stabbed while stopping a shoplifter. See him on the floor, blood pooling as shoppers flee. Witnesses described chaos, employees blocking exits until the suspect pulled a knife, slashing his way out. He was caught, charged with robbery, but the victim's scars, physical and mental, remain. Know this: danger doesn't announce itself. It waits in the ordinary, ready to strike. I still work at Foot Locker, but it's not the same. Every creak of the door, every shadowed aisle, brings him back. Look over your shoulder now and ask, who's watching you? The blade is out there, and it's closer than you think. The warehouse loomed like a forgotten tomb, its 5 stories swallowing the moonlight. I stood alone at its entrance, the night air biting my skin, the hum of distant machinery my only companion. My job was simple: clean, organize, leave. But, as I stepped inside, the shadows whispered a warning. Something was waiting in the dark, something that wasn't just a toy. The cavernous space stretched before me, a maze of crates and shelves under flickering fluorescent lights. I worked for Playvibe, a toy manufacturer, contracted to deep clean their massive storage facility over a week. The air was thick with dust, the scent of plastic and mildew clinging to every breath. My boots echoed on the concrete floor, each step a reminder of my solitude. I'd cleaned offices, schools, even morgues, but this place felt different, alive, in a way that made my skin crawl. Why did the silence feel like it was watching me? My first night began routinely, sweeping aisles, stacking boxes, wiping down shelves. But as I moved deeper into the warehouse, I saw it. A monstrous figure slumped against a wall, 20 feet tall, its blue fur matted, its red lips curled into a grotesque smile. Huggy Wuggy, they called it, a toy from some horror game kids loved. Its plastic eyes glinted under the dim light, unblinking as if sizing me up. I froze, my heart thudding. Toys don't stare. Do they? I called my boss, Marlon, the next morning, my voice unsteady. What's with the giant doll? He laughed, his tone dismissive. Just clean around it, Jasper. If it's in the way, shove it in a closet. No explanation, no context, just a name, Huggy Wuggy. I told myself it was nothing, a creepy prop left to rot, but the memory of its stare lingered, a splinter in my mind. I should have quit right then. Years ago, I'd worked security at a mall, patrolling empty corridors at night. The silence there was heavy, but predictable. Creaky pipes, flickering lights, nothing more. Once I'd found a mannequin tipped, over in a store, its blank face staring up at me. I'd laughed it off, blaming a prankster. But that mannequin's empty gaze was nothing compared to Huggy Wuggy's. This wasn't a prank. This was something else. Why did I keep walking toward it? The second night, I swept an aisle near where Huggy Wuggy sat. The warehouse was colder, now the air sharp with a metallic tang. As I reached the aisle's end, a crash echoed behind me, sharp and deliberate, like a crate hitting the floor. I spun around, my flashlight cutting through the dark. Nothing, just Huggy Wuggy. Still, slumped, its smile wider in the shadows. My pulse raced. No one else is here. Marlon said so. I called him again, my voice tight. Is anyone else working tonight? He sighed. You're paranoid, Jasper. It's just you. Fear gnawed at me, but I dragged Huggy Wuggy to a janitor's closet, its fur rough against my hands, its weight unnatural. I locked the door, my breath ragged and focused on finishing my shift. Keep moving. Don't think about it. But the warehouse wouldn't let me forget. The next night, a deep, distorted voice echoed across the aisles, words garbled but heavy with menace. I followed the sound, my flashlight trembling, and found a figure outside the closet where I'd trapped Huggy Wuggy. It was tall, too tall, its silhouette jagged like a broken puppet. I shouted, but it vanished into the dark, leaving only silence. What was that? What's in here with me? My contract was almost over. One more night, I told myself. But the warehouse had other plans. As I mopped the third floor, a sound pierced the quiet. A child's giggle, faint and warped like it came from a broken toy. My blood ran cold. I searched, my flashlight sweeping over crates, but found nothing until I turned a corner. There it was. Another Huggy Wuggy, but pink. Its fur faded, its smile jagged with sharp teeth. My scream caught in my throat. This isn't real. It can't be. I shoved the pink monstrosity into another closet, my hands shaking, the lock clicking like a gunshot. But the giggles followed me, louder now, echoing from every corner. I gripped my mop, its handle slick with sweat, and kept working, my mind unraveling. Finish the job. Get out. Then it came, a presence, heavy and close, its breath hot against my neck. I turned, and the pink Huggy Wuggy stood before me, its eyes glowing red, its mouth stretching impossibly wide. It lunged, its arms wrapping around me, its teeth grazing my shoulder. I'm going to die here. Desperate, I jammed the mop into its gaping mouth, the filthy bristles sinking into its throat. It staggered, and I broke free, sprinting for the exit. But as I reached the door, I saw it. Huggy Wuggy, the blue one, standing. In the distance, its smile unyielding, its eyes promising I'd never escape. I stumbled into the night, my chest heaving, the warehouse's shadow swallowing my hope. It's still out there, waiting. The news later spoke of Huggy Wuggy, a character from Poppy Playtime, sparking panic among parents. Kids mimicked its actions, hugging too tightly, whispering dark lyrics. A mother claimed her child tried to jump from a window after seeing the game. I don't know if it was real, but I know what I saw. Those eyes, that smile, they're burned. To me, I'll never clean another warehouse. But what if it follows me home? Close your eyes. Imagine a toy you loved as a child, its face soft and kind. Now picture it growing, twisting, its smile hungry. That's what I faced. And somewhere, in another warehouse, it's waiting for its next guest. The church was supposed to be my sanctuary, but that Easter Sunday it became a tomb. I stood frozen as police lights bled through the stained glass windows, their red and blue pulses mocking the candles we'd lit for hope. Sister Agnes was gone, her body carved with an inverted cross, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were watching, whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. 3 years later, I learned the truth. Evil doesn't hide in the shadows. It wears a priest's collar and smiles. In 2020, I was 22, a volunteer at St. Mary's, an old stone church in Toledo, Ohio. Raised in a devout family, I saw the church as home, its pews and hymns woven into my earliest memories. Every Sunday, I'd help with Mass, clean the altar, and chat with the nuns, priests, and regulars who felt like kin. Sister Agnes, with her gentle voice and crinkled smile, was my favorite. She'd taught me to pray when I was 6, her hand steadying mine as we lit candles. "God listens, even when you're scared," she'd said, a memory I clung to like a lifeline. Father Michael, the head priest, was quieter, his eyes sharp but kind, always hovering near Sister Agnes. I trusted them both, never imagining the darkness beneath. That spring, as Easter approached, the church buzzed with preparations. The air smelled of wax and lilies, and sunlight streamed through the stained glass, painting the floor in reds and golds. But something felt off. Sister Agnes, usually spry, grew frail, her face pale as the altar cloth. "Is she sick?" I wondered, catching her leaning on Father Michael during choir practice. "Sister Agnes, are you okay?" I asked one day, her eyes distant. "Everything's fine, dear. Just a lovely day, isn't it?" Her voice was too bright, like she was hiding something. I brushed it off. Easter was coming and we were all stretched thin, polishing pews and arranging flowers. The week before Easter was a whirlwind, my hands raw from scrubbing floors, my mind on the celebration ahead. Father Michael stayed close to Sister Agnes, his presence reassuring. "He'll take care of her," I told myself, ignoring the unease in my gut. Easter Sunday dawned bright, the church glowing with candles and hymns. I walked to St. Mary's, expecting joy, but found chaos. Police cars lined the street, their sirens silent but lights screaming. The church was cordoned off, yellow tape slashing across the oak doors. My stomach churned as whispers spread. "Sister Agnes is dead." I pushed through the crowd, my heart pounding, only to learn the truth. She'd been stabbed 30 times, an inverted cross carved into her chest, her body draped in an altar cloth like a mockery of sacrifice. The image haunted me. Sister Agnes, her gentle hand stilled, her blood pooling on the sacred floor. Who could do this? I sobbed, the church's warmth replaced by a chill that seeped into my bones. Rumors of cults swirled, but no leads emerged. The case went cold, and I couldn't bear to return. I joined a new church, its modern walls a poor substitute for St. Mary's, but safer. For 3 years I avoided the old stone building, its steeple a shadow in my dreams. "Go back. Face it," a voice urged, and in 2023 I did. The church looked smaller, its stones weathered, the air heavy with dust and memory. I stayed for Mass, hoping to reclaim some peace. Afterward, I lingered to talk with Father Michael, now grayer but still commanding. The pews emptied, leaving us alone in the flickering candlelight. We reminisced about Sister Agnes, her laughter, her faith. "Feel the warmth of this place," I told myself, anchoring to the past. But something was wrong. Father Michael's smile was too tight, his eyes darting to the shadows. My skin prickled, a warning I couldn't name. Then it happened. He lunged, his arms wrapping around me like a vice, his laugh a jagged, unhinged sound. "Shut up, or you'll end up like her." His words were a blade slicing through my trust. I froze. his grip crushing, his breath hot against my ear. This isn't real, he's a priest. But his eyes were wild, not the Father Michael I knew. I kicked, my screams echoing off the stone walls, my mind looping to Sister Agnes's lessons. God listens when you're scared. Was she scared too? I clawed at his hands, my nails drawing blood, and broke free, stumbling toward the altar. He chased me, his footsteps heavy, his voice pleading then snarling. Come back. The church was a maze, its sanctity a lie. I dodged through a side hallway, my lungs burning, and found an exit, the door creaking as I burst into the night. I ran home, locking every door, my body shaking as I called the police. They arrested Father Michael that night, and the truth unraveled. He'd heard voices, demonic urges he couldn't resist, driving him to kill Sister Agnes in a ritualistic frenzy. The inverted cross was his ruse, a false trail to deflect suspicion. For years he'd hidden in plain sight, preaching while her blood stained his soul. Every Easter I see her face, her smile fading into the cross on her chest. The church is just a building now, its holiness stolen. Father Michael took more than her life. He took my faith. Inspired by a real tragedy on Holy Saturday, 1980, in Toledo, Ohio. Sister Margaret Ann Paul was found in Mercy Hospital's chapel, stabbed over 30 times, an inverted cross carved into her chest. The scene mimicked a satanic ritual, but the case went cold for decades. In 2006, Father Gerald Robinson, who conducted her funeral, was convicted after new evidence linked him to the crime. He died in prison in 2014, leaving a community shattered. You're alone in a parking lot, the world asleep, your car, a beacon of safety, just steps away. But then you hear it, a low rumble, a door sliding open, and suddenly, the night isn't yours anymore. 4 years ago, I walked into that trap, believing it was just another April Fool's night. By the time I realized it wasn't a prank, I was staring into the eyes of monsters, their knives glinting with my future. Step into a moment where the ordinary twists into terror, where a single step changes everything. 4 years ago, I was Nathan, a young man learning the ropes of my family's aircraft service business at our city's main airport. Our hangar was my second home, a sprawling maze of paperwork and engine grease where I often worked late, preparing to take over when Dad retired. Feel the weight of responsibility, the pride of carrying a legacy. April Fool's night was no different. Another long shift, the clock ticking past midnight. The world outside silent except for the hum of distant planes. I was in my cubicle, the glow of my computer screen casting shadows on the walls. The hangar was empty, its vastness amplifying every sound. The drip of a faucet, the creak of metal settling, hear it now. A place so familiar, yet tonight it feels alive watching you. I texted Dad, William, promising I'd be home soon, then grabbed my jacket and headed out. The parking lot was a short walk, a concrete desert under flickering sodium lights. See it in your mind. A lonely expanse, your car, a solitary island. As I approached, something caught my eye. A white van parked inches from my driver's door, its bulk blocking my way. Feel the first prickle of unease, the instinct that something's wrong. The lot was usually empty this late, and the van's presence felt like an intrusion. Its windows were tinted, reflecting the lights in a way that hid what lay inside. I hesitated, my keys digging into my palm, then squeezed between the vehicles, cursing the tight fit. Imagine it. The metal cold against your skin, the space too small, too close. I opened my door, sliding in when a sound shattered the silence. The van's side door sliding open, a metallic screech that froze my blood. Hear it echo, a sound that doesn't belong, pulling you into a nightmare. Before I could react, hands grabbed me, yanking me backward. I hit the pavement hard, pain exploding in my skull. Feel the impact, the world tilting as fear takes hold. Two men loomed over me, their faces masked, one pressing a knife to my throat. The blade was cold, its edge biting just enough to draw a bead of blood. "Don't scream," the taller one growled, his voice muffled but venomous. See their eyes, human yet empty, like voids that swallow hope. I tried to speak, to beg, but my voice was gone, replaced by a choking panic. They dragged me into the van, the door slamming shut, sealing me in darkness. Inside, the air was thick with sweat and gasoline. Breathe it in, the stench that chokes your lungs. I was shoved to the floor, my wrists bound with zip ties that cut into my skin. The shorter man rifled through my pockets, snatching my wallet and phone. "Is this an April Fool's joke?" I stammered, clinging to a shred of hope. The taller one laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Shut up and empty your pockets or I start cutting." Feel the knife's promise, the moment reality crashes in. I handed over everything, my ID, a few bills, praying it would be enough. But then he found my address in the wallet. "You live with your parents?" he sneered. "Please don't hurt them," I begged, my voice breaking. He leaned closer, his breath hot. "I don't care about your family. I want their money, and you're gonna get it for me." The van lurched forward, tires crunching gravel as we sped away. Feel the motion, the world slipping out of reach. I was trapped, the knife a constant threat, my mind racing for a way out. I tried to memorize sounds, distant sirens, the hum of the engine, hoping for a clue to where we were going. Think of your own family, the ones you'd fight to protect. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time dissolved in the dark. The men argued in low tones, their words indistinct but laced with greed. I was their pawn, a means to an end, and the weight of that truth crushed me. Meanwhile, my parents, William and Sarah, sat in our living room, their world unraveling. Step into their pain, the agony of waiting. I texted at 1:30 a.m., promising to be home soon, a 30-minute drive without traffic. But 3 a.m. came, then 4, then 5, with no sign of me. Sarah paced, her hands trembling, while William stared at the phone, willing it to ring. Feel their hope fade, replaced by dread. At dawn, the doorbell chimed, a sound that should have been relief. William opened the door, expecting me, but found only a note, scrawled, merciless, demanding money for my life. See the paper in his hands, each word a wound. They called the police, their voices raw with fear. Hear their pleas, the desperation to save their child. They gathered the ransom, followed every instruction, but the kidnappers never responded. Days turned to weeks, then months, each one a fresh cut. They offered a public reward, plastered. My face on flyers, but no leads emerged. Feel their emptiness, the void where love once lived. Sarah still sits by the window, hoping, while William checks the news obsessively, both clinging to a miracle that never comes. Now, listen closely, because this isn't just my story. It's a shadow of a real tragedy. In Lakeland, Florida, a young man named Robert Wilds was taken on April Fool's Day. His family left with a ransom note and no answers. See them now, his parents, begging the world for their son. They followed the kidnappers' demands, but 3 weeks later, Robert was still gone. The FBI searched across states, even Thailand, but his fate remains unknown. Know this, some nightmares don't end. They linger, unfinished. 4 years later, my parents' home is a shrine to my absence. Look at your own life, the ones you'd miss if you vanished. Every April Fool's, they wait, hoping it's all a cruel prank, but I'm still out there, or maybe I'm not. Will you ever park your car at night again, knowing what waits in the dark? The van is real, and it's still Driving. The house smelled of lavender and baking bread, a fragile warmth that cloaked our home as my wedding day approached. I stood in the kitchen, my fingers tracing the lace of my veil, imagining the life ahead with Nathan. But beneath the glow of that dream, my mother's shadow grew darker, her eyes hollowed by a hunger no food could sate. I thought I could save her. I thought love could pull her back. I was wrong. Our home was a sanctuary, its walls lined with photos of laughter and love. I, Evelyn, lived there with Nathan, my fiancé, and my mother, Lillian, who'd moved in after Dad passed. She'd always been self-conscious, fussing over her weight, her wrinkles, but my engagement sent her spiraling. The wedding was weeks away, and Lillian wanted to shine, to fit into a dress that would make her feel young again. When she came home with a prescription for Ozempic, she claimed it was for diabetes. I wanted to believe her, but her eyes gleamed with a different truth. Why did I ignore the warning in her smile? At first, the changes were subtle. Lillian's clothes hung looser, her cheekbones sharpened. Her skin took on a papery sheen. The kitchen, once alive with her humming as she baked, grew silent. Her eyes, once warm with love, turned glassy, staring through me as if I were a stranger. I'd catch her in the mirror, pinching her waist, muttering about perfection. Nathan noticed too, his brow furrowing when Lillian snapped at him over dinner. "She's not herself," he'd whisper, his hand squeezing mine. I clung to hope, telling myself it was just a phase. But some phases don't end. They consume. I remembered Lillian before this when I was a girl. She'd twirl me in the backyard, her laughter bright as the sun, her arms strong as she lifted me high. We'd bake cookies together, her hands guiding. Mine, flour dusting her cheeks. That Lillian was my anchor, my safe place. I thought that woman was still inside her, buried under the weight of grief and mirrors. Why did I think I could bring her back? Weeks passed, and Lillian melted away. Her dresses pooled around her frame. Her skin sagged like wilted leaves. Her eyes sank into dark hollows. Worse was her mind. She grew cold, obsessive, her voice sharp as a blade. She'd rearrange furniture at midnight, her footsteps pacing the house like a caged animal. I'd hear her muttering, words I couldn't catch, as if arguing with someone, unseen. "Give me more," she'd hiss, clutching her Ozempic pen. Nathan tried to talk to her, but she'd snarl, her threats chilling. "Leave me alone or you'll regret it." I couldn't ignore it anymore. Lillian was slipping and the wedding loomed like a deadline. I confronted her one evening, my voice trembling. "Mom, you're scaring me. You're taking too much." Her eyes flashed wild and unseeing. "You don't understand," she spat. "I have to be perfect for your day." I backed away, my heart pounding, but her words haunted me. "She's still my mother. I can't give up on her." Desperate, I devised. Plan. If I could remove the Ozempic, maybe Lillian would return. One night while she was out, I crept through her room, my flashlight slicing the dark. I found vials hidden in drawers under pillows, each one a piece of her obsession. My hands shook as I gathered them, their cold glass burning my skin. I dumped them in the trash, my breath ragged, and slipped back to bed, praying she wouldn't notice. "Just sleep, Evelyn. It's over," but it wasn't. Hours later, the house erupted. Plates shattered in the kitchen, Lillian's screams tearing through the night. I crept downstairs, my pulse hammering, and saw her in the dark, her silhouette jagged, her eyes glowing with rage. "Where is it?" she roared, charging at me, her hands clamped around my throat, her nails digging into my skin. "You took it, you traitor," I gasped, clawing at her, the air slipping away. "She's going to kill me." Nathan's voice broke through, his arms pulling her off. She thrashed, screaming about her dress, her perfection, until he pinned her against the wall. I collapsed, sobbing, my throat raw. We retreated to our room, locking the door, too shaken to call the police. She's my mother. I can't betray her. I told myself it was a moment of madness, that the wedding would fix everything. I was wrong. The next morning, Nathan and I moved cautiously, staying together. We entered the kitchen and froze. Lillian lay on the floor, her body still, her face twisted into a smile. Wide, unnatural, the grin of something no longer human. Her eyes stared at the ceiling, empty, but triumphant. I screamed, my knees buckling, Nathan's arms catching me. She's gone, but she's still here, smiling. The wedding came, but it was no celebration. I walked down the aisle, my veil heavy as a shroud, Lillian's casket haunting every step. Guests whispered, their pity suffocating. I saw her in my mind, sitting up, her voice hissing, "Give me more." The joy I dreamed of was ash. A news report later spoke of Trish Webster, an Australian woman who died chasing weight loss with Ozempic, her body ravaged by its side effects. Like Lillian, she'd wanted perfection. Like me, her family paid the price. How many others are chasing that same poison? Close your eyes. Picture your mother, her love your safest place. Now imagine her eyes turning cold, her hands reaching for your throat. That's what Ozempic did to us. And somewhere, another dose waits to claim its next victim. The air was thick with sweat and screams. The Foot Locker a battlefield where dreams of sneakers turned to blood. I clutched my brother Noah's hand, his eyes wide with fear, as a man's gun gleamed under the neon lights. All we wanted was a pair of Jordans, a simple gift to make him smile. Now I see that moment every night, the barrel, the chaos, Noah's body on the floor, and wonder if I'll ever forgive myself for failing him. I've always been Noah's protector. Our dad left when I was 10, leaving me at 19 to fill his shoes for my 14-year-old brother. Mom worked double shifts, so I was the one who got Noah to school, cooked his dinners, and saved up for the things he loved. Noah was obsessed with sneakers, Nikes, Yeezys, LeBrons, but the new Jordan 2 Retro Wingets were his holy grail. Every kid at his Minneapolis high school was hyped, and Noah begged me to take him to Foot Locker on release day, a Saturday in 2023. Make him happy, I told myself, picturing his grin. I had no idea it would cost us everything. That morning, the strip mall was a zoo. The Foot Locker's glass doors reflected a line snaking around the block, hundreds of people shivering in the April chill. Noah bounced on his toes, his worn sneakers scuffing the pavement, his breath puffing in the cold. The crowd was restless, voices sharp with impatience, elbows jabbing as people jostled for position. I kept Noah close, my hand on his shoulder, but the energy felt wrong, too tense, like a storm about to break. Stay calm, just get the shoes, I thought, anchoring to the promise of Noah's smile. 2 hours later, the line barely moved, and my patience was fraying. People shouted, pushing forward, their faces twisted with desperation. Finally, we reached the door, the store's neon lights buzzing overhead, the air heavy with rubber and leather. Noah's eyes lit up as he spotted the Jordans on display, their red and black shine a beacon. He ran to the counter, breathless. "Can I get the retro wingets, size 8? The cashier, a tired teen, nodded. "Last pair, kid." Noah's face was Christmas morning, even when he realized they were 2 sizes too big. "I'll grow into 'em," he laughed, clutching the box. I reached for my wallet, pride swelling, but then a shadow loomed behind us. A bald, middle-aged man, his eyes bloodshot, shoved into line. "I was here first," he roared, grabbing the box from Noah's hands. "Give me those, you little rat." Noah stumbled, his face pale. "Protect him," my instinct screamed. I stepped between them, my voice steady. "Back off, man, he got them fair." The man's face twisted, spit flying as he yelled, "I waited 5 hours. They're mine." He yanked the box, and Noah pushed. "Small but fierce. Stop it, I got them first." The store erupted, customers shouting, employees frozen, the air electric with rage. It wasn't just a fight anymore. It was war. The crowd surged, fists flying, shelves crashing. I grabbed Noah, pulling him toward the door, but the man lunged, his hand clawing at the box. This can't be real, I thought, the chaos blurring like a nightmare. I remembered last year, when I'd taken Noah to buy Nikes. He'd spent weeks saving allowance, his pride infectious as he laced them up. "You're the best, bro," he'd said, a memory that looped now, urging me to save him. But the man was stronger, shoving me against a rack. Then I saw it, the glint of a pistol in his hand. "Get down," someone yelled, but it was too late. The man fired, the sound splitting my ears, glass shattering behind us. Screams filled the air, bodies diving for cover. I tackled Noah, shielding him, but the crowd swept us apart. "Noah!" I shouted, my voice lost in the panic. I fought through the mob, my heart hammering, only to see the man sprinting out, the Jordan box in one hand, the gun in the other. I crawled to the nearest car outside, my lungs burning, the sound of gunfire echoing. "Where's Noah?" The question was a trance pulling me back into the store. The Foot Locker was a wreck. Shelves toppled, sneakers scattered, blood staining the tiles. 2 bodies lay motionless on the floor. One was Noah, his face pale, blood pooling under him. "No, no, no!" I dropped beside him, pressing my hands to his chest, my fingers slick with red. "Stay with me, Noah," I was screaming, crying, a mess of fear and guilt. Strangers held me back, their voices distant as paramedics rushed in. I drove to the hospital, my hands shaking, not knowing if he'd live. Those 10 minutes were hell, every red light a reminder of my failure. Noah survived, thank God, as did the other victim. But the man with the gun vanished, despite security footage and police searches. I replay that day endlessly, wondering how I could have protected Noah better. The Jordans, the crowd, the gun, they're anchors in my nightmares, pulling me back to that moment I lost him in the chaos. I'll never step foot in a Foot Locker again, not when it cost me my brother's blood. Inspired by a real tragedy on a Saturday in 2023 at a Foot Locker in suburban Minneapolis. A sale of Jordan 2 Retro Wing-It sneakers, priced at $200, sparked chaos when only 10 pairs were available for 60 customers. A scuffle turned deadly, with gunfire wounding 2 people, including a teen. Witnesses described panic as shoppers fled, and police have yet to identify the shooter, leaving a community scarred. The glow of your monitor feels like a shield, a fortress where you're untouchable, commanding worlds with a click. But what if the enemy you taunt isn't just pixels? 3 years ago, I laughed at a loser online, thinking he was oceans away. Until he stood over my bed, his hammer raised, his eyes burning with a rage that crossed continents. The game was over, but the nightmare had just begun. Enter a world where the line between virtual and real blurs, where a single taunt can summon a monster. 3 years ago, I was Ryan, a college student hooked on gaming, my nights spent conquering digital battlegrounds. Poppy Playtime's multiplayer mode, Project Playtime, was my latest obsession. A chaotic arena where 6 players built a toy to escape while a 7th, the monster, hunted them. Feel the thrill of the chase, the rush of outsmarting a foe. The servers were quiet, forcing me onto a European one, where I matched with a player named Min from somewhere in Asia. His username flashed on my screen, a challenge I couldn't resist. The game was intense, Min's monster relentless, picking off my teammates one by one. See the screen pulse, your heart racing as you dodge death. But I was sharp, pulling off a last-second win, the toy completed as Min's avatar froze. I couldn't help myself. I typed a smug, "Got you, loser," in chat, rubbing salt in his wound. Min fired back, his messages a torrent of all-caps fury, calling me trash, a nobody. Hear his words, sharp and venomous, but safely distant. I laughed, tossing back a "cry harder," then blocked him, thinking that was the end. Believe for a moment the screen protects you, that rage stays caged. But Min wasn't done. Minutes later, a new Steam account messaged me. No profile. No games, just a string of numbers. See it now. A code that feels wrong, like a key to your life. It was an IP address followed by my full street address down to the zip code. My stomach dropped, but I told myself it was a bluff. Min was halfway across the globe. How could he touch me? Feel the doubt creep in, the moment you question your safety. I reported the account, blocked it, and tried to forget, diving back into Poppy playtime with friends to drown the unease. Let the game pull you in, its colors bright, its dangers fake. Days passed, the threat fading like a bad dream. I played late, my room a cocoon of blue monitor light, the hum of my PC a lullaby. Breathe in the calm, the false security of your space. One night, after a marathon session until 2 a.m., I crashed into bed, the world fading to black. An hour later, a need to use the bathroom stirred me. Open your eyes, expecting nothing but darkness. But there, in the dim glow of my idle monitor, was a silhouette, a man standing over me. His outline sharp, unnatural. Feel your heart stop, the moment reality fractures. I screamed, scrambling back, my back hitting the wall. See him clearly. A stranger in your sanctuary, a violation of everything safe. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice cracking. He stepped closer, his face shadowed, but his eyes glinted with something feral. "You don't know me," he hissed, his accent thick, unfamiliar. "You beat me in Poppy playtime, now I beat you." Hear his voice, a promise of pain, as the world shrinks to this moment. He raised a hammer, its head gleaming, and I froze, my mind screaming that this couldn't be real. Feel the terror, the certainty of death. The first blow grazed my shoulder, pain exploding as I dove to the floor. Feel the impact, the world spinning as you fight to live. I scrambled under the bed, my hands scraping carpet, but he was relentless, swinging wildly. My screams woke Alex, my stepdad, who burst in, flipping the light. See the room flood with clarity, the monster revealed. Min froze, hammer midair, then bolted for the window, shattering glass as he fled. Hear the crash, the fleeting hope. Survival. Alex pulled me from under the bed, my face bloodied, my skull throbbing. I passed out, the world a haze of pain and morphine. I woke in the hospital, stitches crisscrossing my scalp, a concussion stealing my clarity. Touch your head. Imagine the scars that linger. Min was caught days later, trying to board a plane back to Asia, charged with attempted murder. But the why haunted me. He'd flown thousands of miles, fueled by a game, a taunt, a loss. See him now, his rage a mirror of your own fleeting anger. The police called it internet banging, a digital feud turned deadly. But to me, it was a violation of my world. Will you ever game again, knowing rage can cross oceans? Step into the real horror now. This wasn't just my story. It's a warning from a Florida nightmare. A gamer, Edward Kang, flew from New Jersey to attack a rival over a game called Archeage. See him sneaking into a home, hammer in hand, driven by digital hate. He broke in, waited, and struck, only stopped by the victim's stepfather. Blood stained the floor, but the victim survived, scarred like me. Know this: the screen is no shield, it's a door, and some will walk through. 3 years on, I can't touch a controller without seeing Min's eyes. Look at your screen now, and ask, who's on the other side? My room, once my haven, is a prison of memories, the hammer's shadow never far. Feel it linger, the rage that's closer than you think. The city skyline glittered through our apartment's windows, a dazzling backdrop to Serena's world of fame. Her music pulsed through the walls, her face glowed on magazine covers. But in the quiet of our home, a darkness was growing. I watched her chase perfection with a needle, believing it would save her. I thought I could stop her descent, but some hungers consume everything, even the ones you love. Our loft was a haven of glass and steel, perched high above the city's chaos. I, Lila, shared it with Serena, a rising music star whose voice had captivated millions. We'd been friends since college, her talent a spark even then, but fame had sharpened her edges. She obsessed over her image. Every curve, every angle, every photo dissected by strangers online. When she brought home Ozempic, a drug touted for weight loss, she called it a tool to polish herself. I saw the glint in her eyes, not ambition, but desperation. Why did I let her open that vial? At first, the changes were striking. Serena's waist slimmed, her cheekbones carved sharper. Her stage outfits hugged her like a second skin. The city adored her, fans screaming her name, but our apartment grew colder. Her laughter, once bright, turned brittle. She'd stand before the mirror for hours, her fingers tracing her ribs, her eyes hollowed by a relentless need. The kitchen, once filled with her late-night baking, now held only Ozempic pens, their needles glinting under the fluorescent light. She's still Serena, I told myself. She's still my friend. I remembered her before the spotlight when we were just two dreamers in a cramped dorm. Serena would strum her guitar, her voice raw and free, her smile unburdened by cameras. We'd stay up till dawn, sharing secrets, her warmth my anchor. That Serena was fearless, her beauty in her spirit, not her reflection. I thought that girl was still inside her, waiting to resurface. Why did I think fame hadn't devoured her? Weeks turned to months, and Serena unraveled. Her skin sagged, pale and thin as parchment, her hair dulled to straw. Her eyes, once vibrant, stared through me, glassy and distant. She'd snap if I spoke, her voice a venomous hiss. You don't get it, Lila. I have to be perfect. I tried to warn her about Ozempic's risks. Nausea, organ damage, the stories of ruined lives. But she'd scream, her hands trembling as she clutched her vials. I need this, she'd say, her words a mantra. Stay quiet, Lila. Don't push her. The apartment became a cage. Serena locked herself in her room, emerging only to inject, her footsteps erratic, her muttering a constant hum. I'd hear her at night, pacing, arguing with someone unseen. I'm not enough, she'd whisper, her voice breaking. I wanted to help, but fear held me back. Fear of her rage, her fragility, the stranger she'd become. She's still in there. You can save her. One evening I found a box of Ozempic in the trash, its label from a doctor I didn't recognize. Then another from a different clinic. My stomach dropped. Serena was hoarding, collecting prescriptions like trophies, injecting far beyond the safe dose. Her body was collapsing, her mind fracturing, and I'd done nothing. You have to stop this, Lila. Now. I confronted her, my voice shaking. You're killing yourself, Serena. This has to end. Her eyes flashed, wild and unseeing. Stay out of my life, she snarled, slamming her door. That night I lay awake, the city's hum a distant pulse. Serena's muttering grew louder, words spilling through her door. I don't want to, she said, her voice trembling. I'm dying. Then a laugh, sharp and wrong. You want to be the best. Keep going. My blood ran cold. Who's she talking to? I crept to her room, my heart pounding, and peered through the crack. Serena stood alone, her silhouette gaunt, an Ozempic pen in her hand. Not enough, she hissed, jabbing the needle into her arm. I backed away, my breath shallow, and returned to bed, praying it was a nightmare. But the next morning, Serena was gone, her room empty, her mirror smeared with fingerprints. Days passed, and I didn't see her. Her absence a weight heavier than her presence. She's visiting family, I told myself. She's fine. But the truth clawed at me. One night I woke to a creak, the air thick with a sour medicinal scent. I stumbled to the bathroom, my flashlight trembling, and found her. Serena stood before me, a skeleton draped in skin, her eyes burning with madness. Her smile stretched, grotesque, her teeth bared like a predator's. In her hand, an Ozempic pen gleamed, its needle dripping. You tried to stop me, she whispered, her voice a blade. She lunged, the needle aimed at my chest. I screamed, dodging, but her strength was unnatural, her hands clawing at me. She's not Serena anymore. I fought back, shoving her against the sink and ran, her laughter chasing me through the dark. I locked myself in my room, my body shaking, the city's lights mocking my fear. Morning came and Serena was gone. Her room trashed, vials scattered like broken promises. I never saw her again, but the news spoke of Ozempic's rise. Celebrities praising its miracles, others denying its scars. Stories of ruined lives like Serena's filled the headlines, a warning no one heeded. How many others are chasing that needle's lie? Her face haunts me, not the star on stage, but the creature in the bathroom, her smile a wound. The apartment feels tainted, every mirror reflecting her eyes. I wanted to save my friend, but I lost her to her hunger. I can't stay here, but I fear she's still out there, her needle waiting. Close your eyes. Picture your closest friend, their smile your home. Now imagine them hollowed, their hands armed with poison. That's what Ozempic did to Serena. And somewhere, another star is reaching for the same needle. The room reeked of decay, a tomb lit only by the sickly glow of a monitor. My son Liam sat there, his eyes glued to Poppy playtime, his body wasting away as Huggy Wuggy's grin filled the screen. I thought I could save him, pull him back from the game that stole his soul. But when he turned to me, his face wasn't human. It was that monster's, and his hands were claws reaching for my throat. Now he's gone, and I'm the one who killed him. I've spent years regretting how I raised Liam. By 2023, he was 40, still living in our Ohio home, a shadow of the boy I once knew. As a kid, he'd light up when I brought home new game consoles, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. I'd saved for months to buy his first Game Boy, his small hands trembling with joy as he hugged me. "You're the best, Dad," he'd said, a memory that haunts me now. But I indulged him too much, letting screens replace the world. He dropped out of college, couldn't hold a job, and had no friends. His life was that room, its walls stained, the air thick with unwashed clothes and stale food. My wife and I watched him fade, our love powerless against his addiction. Liam's obsession with Poppy playtime started a year ago. The game's creepy dolls, especially Huggy Wuggy with its razor-toothed smile, consumed him. He'd play for days, barely eating, his hygiene a distant memory. "Huggy Wuggy's my friend," he'd mutter, his voice hollow. My wife begged me to intervene, but I was weak, hoping he'd outgrow it. We stopped buying new games, thinking boredom would force him out. Instead, he grew angry, guilt-tripping us about abandoning him. "All I have is this game," he'd say, his eyes pleading yet distant. We were trapped, our home a prison for a son who'd never grown up. By spring, Liam's addiction deepened. New chapters of Poppy playtime pulled him further from reality. He'd scream at the screen, laugh like a child, or whisper to Huggy Wuggy as if it could hear. The room's stench worsened, a mix of sweat and rot that clung to my skin. My wife couldn't take it anymore. "Do something or we'll lose him forever," she said, her voice breaking. I spent weeks building courage, pacing outside his door, the monitor's glow seeping under it like a warning. Face him. Save him, I told myself, anchoring to the boy he used to be. But every knock went unanswered, the silence louder than my fear. One night I couldn't wait. The house was dark, my wife asleep, the air heavy with spring humidity. I knocked, my fist trembling, no response. I knocked harder, the sound echoing in the quiet hall. Still nothing. This isn't right. I pushed the door open and the smell hit me, a wave of decay that made my stomach lurch. The room was a cave, lit only by the monitor's blue light, Huggy Wuggy's face frozen on the screen. Liam sat in his chair, his back to me, unmoving. "Liam, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking. He didn't turn. "His name is Huggy." "Wuggy," he rasped, his tone not his own. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "Enough of this game, look at me." He turned and I froze. His face wasn't Liam's. His mouth stretched wide, mimicking Huggy Wuggy's grin. His eyes empty, glinting with something inhuman. "This isn't real. It's the light, the game," I thought, my mind looping to that Game Boy moment when he was just a boy. But then he lunged, his arms wrapping around me, squeezing like a vice. His breath was hot, his teeth snapping at my face. "Huggy, Huggy!" he growled, his strength unnatural. I fought back, my hands clawing at his arms, my screams waking. My wife. He was crushing me, my ribs aching, my vision blurring. "Liam, stop!" I gasped, but he didn't hear. I remembered his childhood laughter, how he'd run to me after a bad dream. Was this a dream? The thought was a trance, pulling me deeper into terror. Then suddenly he collapsed, his grip loosening as he slumped to the floor. I stumbled back, slamming the door, my wife sobbing beside me. We stood there, frozen, knowing our son was lost. Not to the game, but to something darker within him. Days later, I checked his room, the stench now unbearable. I found him in the chair, his body rotting, his face locked in that monstrous grin. The autopsy said a stroke, caused by a blood clot from sitting too long. Our fight likely dislodged it, and I didn't call for help. Too scared of the thing he'd become. I killed him, I tell myself, the guilt a noose tightening every night. The monitor still glows in my dreams, Huggy Wuggy watching, waiting for me to join Liam in his digital hell, inspired by a real tragedy in 2023. A 25-year-old man known as DC died after playing video games for 73 hours straight at an internet cafe. Jobless and living with his mother, he'd binged without eating or moving, collapsing from a stroke caused by a blood clot. Paramedics couldn't save him, a grim warning of addiction's deadly grip. You've heard them now, 15 stories carved from the deepest fears of those who lived through them. But fear doesn't end when the story does. It lingers, in the quiet moments, in the spaces between your thoughts. You might sleep with the lights on tonight, you might check the lock twice, and that's okay. Because what you've just heard, it stays. But the shadows we uncovered tonight are just a fraction of what's out there. There are more stories waiting, more voices, more truths hidden behind closed doors and smiling neighbors. If you're Ready to hear them, we'll be here. So subscribe, turn on the bell, and return if you dare. Because the scariest story might be the next one, and sometimes it doesn't wait for the next video. Sometimes it's already begun.